I don't know if anyone else has got ideas about...
No, so they're good. So the first thing we said was, you're terrified.
Yep.
The second thing we've said now, so maybe I'll write them down, shall I?
Thank you, that'd be great.
So the first thing you said was, acknowledge the terror. Okay? That's the very first thing. And the second thing is...
your beliefs or justifications or ways to get away from your terror.
Beliefs and methods used to avoid terror.
Yep.
And remember, it's to avoid the experience of terror.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what we're doing here is we're being honest with ourselves about the techniques and the belief systems that we have that cause us to avoid our terror. Now, for the majority of us, we have these very strong belief systems that are very much surrounding the feeling of terror. In other words, we say we shouldn't have to feel terror. We shouldn't have to feel fear. Other people, the person who hurt me should have to feel it. And this is why some people even revert to violence against the person who hurt them, because they want the person who hurt them to feel as bad as they feel, right? But all of that doesn't help you heal any of the abuse. No. And this, by the way, this applies to both sexual and other forms of abuse. So violent abuse, for example, it also applies to, right? So it applies to all sorts of abuse. Obviously, when it's sexual in nature, there are additional issues that a person has to cope with that are not the same with violent abuse. Does that make sense? But there are still large amounts of terror. Right? So you see many men who are adults who have grown up with a violent father who was a drinker and come home drunk and beat up mum and beat up the kids and all that kind of scenario. You see many men who have grown up in that, although they weren't sexually abused by their father, they still will have this kind of terror in them. Does that make sense? And this kind of terror has to be released if you ever want to be free, if you ever want to feel a sense of freedom. Now, the only way to release terror is to feel it. Right? That's the problem. And in fact, what we did most of the time was we tried to avoid feeling it when we were children. And in fact, many times spirits who were guiding us at the time also tried to help you avoid it as well. And the main reason why they do that is because they try to help you not have as much trauma. Does that make sense? But unfortunately, it also causes, to a degree, this detunement thing that goes on, where we don't remember certain things about the abuse. We remember it beginning and it ending, but we don't remember much in between many times. And the reason why we don't remember much in between a lot of the times is because we're out of body already by that time, and so and in a safe location sort of thing, and the problems were just happening to our body at that point. So we need to understand that the memories of both violent and sexual abuse are not going to be as defined as your normal memories.
Okay.
Right? So this is something that you need to be aware of when you've been abused as well. They're not going to be as defined because you wanted to get away from them while they were occurring. And many times you were assisted to get away from them by spirits and people who wanted to come to your rescue. Does that make sense? Spirit people who wanted to come to your rescue. And not all of them were people who were trying to help you, by the way. They're just people often who were in the same position as yourself when they were on Earth, and they're trying to avoid their stuff as much as what they're trying to help you avoid yours. Yeah. Right? So, yeah. Now, so acknowledge the terror. So this is number one. Most people who have been abused barely do that. Right? And what are the beliefs and methods you use to avoid the terror? Most people are so much automated in this space that they're not even really conscious of what they do to avoid the terror. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only been a process that I'm discovering now You know, I've been I've actually felt terror, the big anxiety in my body for the first time in the last couple of months. You know, before that, I was gone before that was even allowed.
Yes.
And
So
now it's like, all right, it's a sign.
Yep. So allow yourself now, and if it was me, most people who've been abused don't want to do something positively and directly towards fixing the abuse.
Yeah, I'd agree.
What they want to do instead is avoid it.
Yeah.
Avoid the knowledge of it, avoid the fact that it happened, and there's a big fear that they might re-experience a whole heap of things that they don't want to experience and so forth, which is not really possible because you're an adult now and most of the abuse usually occurred during childhood. So it's not really possible to re-experience something as an adult that you had experienced as a child. All you can do is really remember it from an emotional perspective. But we tell ourselves that I'm going to reinfect myself with the past, or we tell ourselves I'm over the past. Right? But every single day shows you're not over the past, but you're over it, right? Yeah. And so this is where we've got to be very sincere with ourselves about what we actually do now, right? Now, number 3 is to remember that it is an act of love towards yourself to feel your own feelings. Does everyone get what I mean by that? Yeah. So whenever we tell ourselves, I shouldn't have to feel that, you're really in that moment engaged in telling yourself a false thing about love of self. Because love of self really says, whatever is in me, if I love myself, I'll feel it. I'll honour that was my experience. See, for many people who have been either violently or sexually abused, they want to forget those parts of their life. The problem with forgetting those parts of their life is that they are actually now forgetting lots of things that have formed their current life. So you're sort of running away from what has been a part of forming you as you currently are. Now, if you love yourself, you wouldn't do that. You would honour that. Does that make sense?